Dr. Muhammad Baumia, Jake Utanka Ubetebilamti versus John Dramani Mahama, the Electoral Commission and National Democratic Congress, NDC. Electoral Commission. NDC.
May it please my lords, I appear for the petitioners. With me, Ms. Gloria Kufu. Frank Davis. Akutu Ampao. Kwame Akufu. And Professor Ken Ajimanatefa.
And if you please, my lords, I appear for the president, the first respondent.
May it please your lordships, I appear for the second respondent, and with me are my learned friends Stanley Amate Few and Frida Bruce Apia, my lords.
Here for the third respondent, and with me, my learned friend Samuel Kojo.
Yes,
my lords, I believe at the end of yesterday, the case of the petitioners was closed, but I think it would be useful to have clarity from the petitioners' counsel that they've closed their case.
That's why I'm saying yes, yes, yes. Go ahead.
Well, it's quite clear.
My Lords, subject to the outcome of the audit, we have closed our case.
Yes. My Lords, we'd like to indicate, as is clear in the affidavit filed by our witness, Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia, that he is also testifying on behalf of the first respondent. And therefore, my Lords, subject to your directions as to the order in which you wish to proceed, his testimony will also be on behalf of the first respondent, and I just wish to give that indication.
My Lord, in that case, we will call Mr. Asiedu Nketia, but he will be led in evidence by my learned senior, Mr. Chikata.
Yes.
Before you give evidence, you have to swear by one of these holy habits. We have the Bible, the cross, the Quran. On the other hand, you can affirm in a manner that binds on your conscience. Which of these would you like to use?
The Bible.
Please raise the Bible. Please say after me. I,
Johnson Asiedu Nketia,
swear by the Almighty God,
swear by the Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. Lord, S will be in English.
Okay.
Please, you have to address the bench, my lords. Then you speak loud. Direct your answers to my lords.
Can you give your full name to the court?
My lords, I am Johnson Asiedu Nketia.
And where do you live?
My lord, I live at E16/5 Sakumono Estate, Tema.
Now, you have filed a power of attorney attached to your exhibit, your affidavit.
Yes, my lord.
And that power of attorney is signed by whom?
My lord, the power of attorney was executed by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of the Republic of Ghana and the first respondent in this case, appointing me to testify for and on behalf of himself in this case.
Now, why are you testifying on behalf of the President?
My lord, the President was elected by the National Democratic Congress, the third respondent in this case, as its official presidential candidate for the 2012 presidential elections. And the party also sponsored him as our candidate. And I am the General Secretary of the third respondent, and I've been involved in all the processes leading to the election, including attending all meetings on behalf of the President and the third respondent. So I believe I'm best placed to testify in this petition.
Now, do you know the petitioners in this case?
Yes, my lord.
Now, you have just mentioned why you are testifying on behalf of the first respondent. In your role as General Secretary for the third respondent, did you have anything to do with the conduct of the 2012 elections in the country?
Yes, my lord. My lord, I led our party's team to the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, and I was involved in all the processes that led to the holding of the election, including planning, recruitment and training of my party's agents, and monitoring the elections on the voting day.
When you referred to your party's agents, exactly who are you referring to?
My lord, I'm referring to 52,004 persons selected and trained to represent my political party, that is the third respondent, at all the polling stations throughout Ghana. That works to 2 agents per each of the 26,002 polling stations.
And what role did those persons have in the conduct of the elections?
My Lord, they are specially trained to play 4 key roles at the polling station. One is to ensure that nobody who is not entitled to vote actually gets the opportunity to vote. In other words, they are to check impersonation. Then their second role is to ensure that nobody votes more than once. That is to check multiple voting. Their third role is to ensure that nobody tampers with the contents of the ballot box. And my Lord, the fourth role is to ensure that electoral officials conduct their duties according to the rules that apply at the polling station.
Now, you have told us about your role as General Secretary of the Third Respondent in the 2012 elections. Have you been involved in any previous elections?
Yes, my Lord. I've been the General Secretary of the Third Respondent for about 7 years now. I was involved in the 2008 elections. And before becoming the General Secretary, I actually have been involved in many previous elections, beginning from 1978, the yes and no referendum, at which I was a polling agent. And since then, I've been involved in almost all the public elections held in this country, either as a candidate, an agent, or party official.
Now, in relation to the 2012 elections specifically, can you tell this court what the key steps that you participated in leading to the election were?
My Lord, I participated in all the meetings at the Inter-Party Advisory Committee. That is a committee that is established with the purpose of achieving consensus in managing the elections, which is organized at the auspices of the Electoral Commission. So I participated representing my party and then the first respondent in all these meetings. And it was at these meetings that key decisions about the elections were taken, including the meetings that preceded the compilation of the biometric voters register, meetings held to determine the order of candidates on the ballot
paper, and meetings held to review the outcomes of the biometric registration, and meetings held to prepare for the printing of the ballot papers, and then meetings held to discuss how to actually manage the processes of the voting day with the biometric verification system that was being introduced.
Now, in relation to the compilation of the biometric register that you mentioned, what process was in place, and were you involved in that?
Well, the compilation briefly involved the capture, the opening of registration centers throughout the country in all polling stations, and then the capture of the biometric details of each potential voter or registrant, and which was done on daily basis. At the close of each day, a printout of number of people registered given to political parties.
When you say it was done by whom?
By the second respondent, given to the political parties. So at the end of the registration process, every party was in a position to compile the draft register, which is comparable to what the second respondent was holding.
Now, were you personally involved as General Secretary in the processes of the third respondent as far as the registration was concerned?
Yes, my lord. I participated in the recruitment of the registration agents representing my party, participated in their training, and participated in all the meetings that led to the registration exercise.
So what was the outcome of that exercise ultimately? How did that process that you described of capturing data from various people at centers, how did it end?
At the end of the exercise, and at the time we held a follow-up meeting at IPAC, we're informed that we've gotten a provisional register, the size of which was around 13,917,000 plus a few, registrants. And that compared favorably with what we had compiled as a political party based on the daily printouts that were given to us. But I must add that this was before registration of some Ghanaians working in our missions, some Ghanaians on scholarship, and some troops returning from peacekeeping duties, and a few others.
Now, before the election on the 7th and 8th of December, what was the status of the registration exercise?
My lord, the register, by the nature of the processes involved, kept changing, because after the provisional register was announced, as I said, these other registrants were added, and then we got to a figure of a little above 14,158,000 plus. And then the second respondent undertook a cleaning up exercise and so on. So the figure kept changing till a point where we were advised that we must have a cutoff point for all the parties to know the register with which the ballot papers were going to be printed and with which officially will be going into the elections. Now remember that figure came up to 14,031,793.
And that was about what time of the year?
That was before the printing of the ballot papers. I don't remember the exact time, but it certainly was in November.
And you've indicated before the printing of the ballot papers. You just said that. Now,
Yes, my lord.
Is there any particular significance to your reference to the time of the printing of the ballot papers?
My lord, the register provides a record of people who are entitled to vote. And the ballot papers, as it were, are the material that is used in voting. So at any point in time, there is a correlation between the size of the register and the number of ballot papers that are printed. And so that's the significance. So once we agreed at IPAC with second respondent that this was the figure we were going to go into the elections, we then were also given the list of polling stations that were going to be used for the elections. And so these formed the basis for the printing of the ballot paper, because the ballot papers must be sufficient for all the people who are entitled to vote, with some extra to provide for, damage of ballot papers and so on. So that's the significance, my lord.
Now, was the third respondent involved in any way in respect of the printing of the ballot papers?
Yes, my lord. The third respondent, and indeed all participating political parties and candidates, were involved in the printing of the ballot papers. My lord, the ballot papers in an election are regarded as security documents. So the number of printing houses and the location of printing houses are known to all participating parties and the second respondent. And before printing begins, the second respondent calls a meeting and gives the parties the timetable for printing, gives us the training for the printing, and then allows each party to select agents who will physically be present at all the printing houses during the printing exercise. My lord, my party had to run a 3-shift. Each shift went for 8 hours, then they will hand over to another, then they will hand to a third shift, which will bring us to the 24 hours. So there was 24-hour monitoring of the printing to ensure that nobody prints any extra ballot papers, to ensure that the printing goes according to the polling station numbers that were given, and the packing, sorting, and distribution up to the utilization at the polling station level, it's all strictly monitored by all the participating parties in the elections.
Now, you referred to printing houses where these are printed. How did the ballot papers, do you know how the ballot papers ended up at different polling stations? Do you know the process for that?
Yes, my lord. After the printing has been completed, our party still maintained agents to track the distribution into the various regions and the distribution into the various constituencies, and then eventually into the distribution for the various polling stations. All these processes are tracked, and at every stage, if there is any movement of ballot papers, the seals, they are properly sealed, and all the seal numbers are taken by all participating party agents and then handed over to the agents at the next level, from national to regional, and then regional also monitors and hands over to district, and then from district they monitor and hand over to the polling station, presiding officers who sign at the point of taking over the ballot papers before they carry them to the polling stations.
Now, is there any other documentation of the second respondent concerning the elections which have a similar treatment to what you've described in respect of the ballot papers?
Not that I know of. It is the nature of the ballot papers. That is how come they are treated the way they are treated. All the other stationery are considered as generic stationery that can be used in any polling station.
Now, you are aware that the second petitioner has testified that the New Patriotic Party did not have a provisional register in respect of the December 2012 elections.
Yes, my lord, I read it in their petition.
Now, what was the situation as far as your party was concerned?
My lord, as I've indicated earlier on, there was a meeting before the commencement of the compilation of the biometric register. And the second respondent made all participating parties to understand that there will be daily printout of the number of registrants, and that the second respondent's copy will be sent to Accra to help in the compilation of the provisional register. So each party would be sharing the same document with the second respondent, and so each party should consider the printout as the provisional register. And so that was what my party did, and at the close of the exercise, we were able to get the same register that the second respondent used or announced as the provisional register.
Now, when you referred to the training of your polling agents earlier, can you just explain who was involved in the conduct of that training?
My lord, we have an elections directorate with seasoned members who have participated in elections over the years. So there are key resource persons. And the second respondent also participates in the training of all agents of political parties and grants a facility that if anybody would engage in further training of their agents, they were prepared to release resource persons to facilitate that training. So this was what we did. And I remember we wrote on about 2 occasions to request for a resource person from the second respondent, and that request was granted. So after we did the training of trainers in Accra, then the trainers will go to the field and train people at regional levels, constituency levels, and then to polling station levels.
And as far as the involvement of the second respondents are concerned, was that limited to just providing resource persons, or were there any other forms of participation by them? Can I have?
No, my lord, before every elections, including the 2012 elections, the second respondent also organizes training for all the agents of candidates who are, participating in the elections. And they did so for the 2012 elections as well.
Now, there has been put in evidence a booklet of the second respondent, which I'd like to show to you. Sorry. Yeah, this one. Let's start with this one, and then I'll show you this one. Yeah. And the last one. Yeah. I'm going to show you 2 exhibits. Exhibits EC1 and EC2. Have you ever seen these documents before now?
Yes, my lord. These are training guides which are printed and issued by the second respondent to all political parties who so wish to avail themselves to facilitate the training. So the guide, the Electoral Commission of Ghana, a guide to candidates and their training agents. This is the principal manual for the training of the party agents.
And are you also familiar with exhibit EC2?
EC2. Yes, my lord, a guide to election officials. The Electoral Commission itself uses this one in training their officials, but we also use it because we must understand their role at the polling station. So we use that one.
Very well. Very well. Now, in using these guidelines for the training of your polling agents, would there be some specific areas of focus for the training regarding what the polling agents are supposed to do on election day?
My lord, that's a leading question.
Not a leading question.
The witness has not made any such allusion, and it's a leading question.
My lords, I do not think that's a leading. Would there be specific areas of focus? That cannot be a leading question. I mean, the question is not suggesting an answer in any way, because, I mean...
What was the that formulation of your question.
Would there be specific areas of focus in the training of the polling agents? That's not a leading question. My Lord, for the avoidance of doubt, I'll reformulate it. For the avoidance of doubt. Now, Mr. Asiedu Nketia, you have referred to Exhibit C1 as a manual in respect of the election process. Now, referring specifically to your training of polling agents, did you have any key points within that manual that form part of the training?
Yes, my Lord. First of all, the agents are to undertake specific assignments at the polling station. So they are made to understand the nature and weight of the assignment on the polling day. One, they are trained to check impersonation. They are trained to check multiple voting so that nobody can vote twice, and so on. And then also, my Lord, they also focus on the tally of votes. At the end of the day, the whole election is about votes. The tally of votes that our candidate gets at the polling station, and the tally of votes that other candidates also get at the polling station to avoid cheating.
Now, did the training also cover what they do in situations which they regard as not consistent with the rules and regulations of the electoral process?
My Lord, that's another leading question.
It's quite clear.
Yes.
It's as suggestive as the first one you rephrased. So,
Now, very well. Mr. Asiedu Nketia.
Yes, my Lord.
In respect of the training of the polling agents, what other areas were highlighted?
My Lord, we highlight the sorting processes and then the counting.
The sorting of what?
The sorting of ballot papers, because at the end of the day, people go to the polling station and cast their votes. And the duty of the polling agent is to ensure that everybody's vote counts. So it's like they are there to protect everybody's vote. So they first of all are trained to ensure that the ballot papers that are being used at the polling station are actually the ballot papers that are designed for that polling station. They are also given copies of the biometric voters register even before they go to the polling station. So they always have an idea about the number of people who are entitled to vote at the polling station. And then after the vote has been cut and the ballot box has been opened, they are also trained to observe the sorting and to ensure that if there is any abnormal occurrences, the sorting deals with those before the entries are made on the declaration form, and then the results are declared. And once the results are declared, signed and declared, they are instructed to take copies of the pink sheet and then rush to our collation center.
Now, you talked about them being trained to ensure that the ballot papers used at the polling station are the ballot papers that are supposed to be used. I mean, how is that done? I mean, how can that be determined?
My Lord, first of all, every political party is given a copy of the analysis of the printing of the ballot paper. So every party has an idea as to where ballot papers will be ending up. And then at the polling station level, I mean at the distribution center where the materials are distributed for every presiding officer, the receipt of the ballot papers by the presiding officer are also monitored by our agents. And then when they go to the polling station itself, before voting commences, there is a record taken of the range of serial numbers of the ballot papers that will be used at that polling station. So if at the close of the voting, there is an indication of a ballot paper that is found in the box, it is easy to check whether that ballot paper came from the stock that is used at the polling station or not.
Okay. Now, we've dealt with the pre-election day background information. So we'll move to the election day itself. Did you yourself vote did you vote in the election?
Yes, my Lord.
And where did you vote?
My Lord, I voted at Nkramine Secondary School polling station in Sekwa, my hometown, in the Tyne district of Prongahafo region of Ghana.
And when you went to vote, what was the process that you went through?
My Lord, since I had big assignments on the voting day, and the polling station happened to be not too far away from my residence, I luckily was the first to get to the polling station, so I didn't have to join a queue. So I was there when the polling officials arrived and set their table for the voting. So, my Lord, my polling card, my voter's ID card was demanded, and I presented it to the presiding officer, who then checked my picture with my fiscal face, and then and then checked the serial number of my ID card with the serial number in the register. Having satisfied themselves with this, they then swiped my card, and again my picture and other details popped up on the machine, and I was requested to do the fingerprinting, which I did, and I had verified from the machine, and a ballot paper was issued to me. It was torn.
Now, who did that? Who issued the ballot paper? When you say a ballot paper was issued to you?
My Lord, the polling officials, there is the presiding officer and other assistants. Mm-hmm. So one of them is responsible for dispensing the ballot paper. Mm-hmm. So when you, after you have been verified, then your one of your fingers is dipped in an indelible ink to make sure that you don't come back there to vote. And then the ballot paper was torn from the booklet and turned face down, stamped behind, and signed by the presiding officer. And then it was demonstrated to me how it should be folded. And I went and thumb-printed and came to drop the ballot paper in the ballot box, which was standing in the open, in the full view of everybody. And then after I had voted for my preferred presidential candidate, which I'm sure everybody knows. And then
We're not asking you that. We're not asking you that.
I then proceeded to the counter where the parliamentary ballots are dispensed, and the same process was repeated, and I cast my vote also for my preferred candidate, and I left the place.
Now, were there other polling stations that you visited on election day?
Yes, my lord, because I've already indicated that I'm involved in monitoring, so I visited several polling stations.
One question after the other, which are irrelevant. It's not in their pleadings, it's not in the affidavit, one after the other. And I think it's about time that an end is brought to this line of questioning.
I don't really understand the objection. The line of questioning is irrelevant. I'm asking him about his own participation in the election process, and that is clearly relevant. That is clearly relevant to his ability to, from his personal knowledge, his ability to speak to the election processes is very, very relevant. So I really don't understand the nature of the objection. Maybe you can.
If he wanted to testify on these matters, his affidavit should have stated so, that he was going to give personal testimony on these matters. His affidavit does not say so. Instead, they have affidavit evidence of 7,200 people on what happened at the polling station. But he has not said anything about that, and it is completely outside their pleadings.
My lords, paragraphs 8, 9, and also 10 of the affidavit of Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia relate to the processes that were undertaken on election day. And the questions that I am asking, there are several other paragraphs which in which he also relates his experience of the electoral process to specific headings in the affidavit. But my lords, those are extremely relevant in respect of his testimony, and I do not see how we can be prevented from that line of questioning.
There is nothing in those paragraphs which indicates that Mr. Asiedu Nketia was going to tell us about his personal involvement with the voting. Indeed, in paragraph 8, this is what is said there, that the process of voting on the 2 days has been testified to by the polling/counting agents representing first and third respondents who have testified from personal knowledge in affidavits and so on. So there, in their own affidavit, they rely on the affidavits of polling agents And they have filed 7,200 of them. That's what they say. No mention is made of Mr. Asiedu Nketia.
My lord, my learned friend omitted to read the first sentence of paragraph 8. In brief, voting involved a process of biometric verification of the voter by presiding officers at the various polling stations. Voter identification cards, visual observation, and the biometric register, as well as fingerprint verification, were all part of the identification process. The voter was then allowed to vote first for, and so on. I mean, these are pleadings of the voter, in the affidavit. These are statements in the affidavit by the witness. And the witness also indicated that he is deposing to these facts on the basis of his personal knowledge and also on the basis of information and belief. So, my lords, I really do not see the point of the objection. I'm still a bit at a loss as to what is.
And my lord, there's nothing about personal knowledge. In the paragraphs that were referred to by my learned friend, there's nothing about personal knowledge. It says it's based on information and belief, not personal knowledge.
My lords, I just refer your lordships to the evidence decree, section 60, subsection subsection 1. A witness may not testify to a matter unless sufficient evidence is introduced to support a finding that he has personal knowledge of the matter. Evidence to prove personal knowledge may but need not consist of the testimony of the witness himself. In this case, I mean, the witness himself is testifying to his personal knowledge.
My lord, the affidavit does not say so. And I believe the purpose of the affidavit is to let the other party know the ambit of the evidence that is going to be led. If the only requirement is personal knowledge for personal knowledge sake, then there will be no limits to what testimony can be given in the court.
I think I've made the point.
By majority of 5-4, Ansa Usu Ninia Buangwadegwe JJSC dissenting, the objection is overruled.
As the court pleases.
We're most grateful, my lord. Now, you described your involvement the day that you voted yourself. Were you involved?
As much as possible, go by the affidavit.
Very well, very well.
Yeah,
very
and
well.
pleadings.
Very well, very well. My lords, yes, I will do that, my lords.
Yes, my lord. After voting, I participated in the monitoring exercise on behalf of the third respondent, and I must say, I personally visited about 20 polling stations in 10 constituencies, spread over 3 regions, on the 7th of December, before the close of day. These were in Brong-Ahafo, the northern part of Western region and Ashanti region.
Now, what was the outcome, to your knowledge? What was the outcome of the presidential election?
My lord, at the end of the elections, which spanned over 2 days, the second respondent declared the first respondent as the winner of the elections. And
Now, that is obvious, so didn't waste our time on such things. Yes, yes.
Now, how did you get to know that outcome? How did you get to know that outcome?
my lord, this declaration was done through a press conference of the second respondent at its own premises and witnessed by press houses all over the country, including international press houses. And I was there physically. And subsequently, these results were gazetted.
Now, before that declaration, which you said you were present at, did anything happen before that?
Yes, my lord, because of the challenges of the biometric voting system, which was being introduced into the country for the first time. For the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic, the election had to span 2 days. And then after getting to the close of after the second day, were invited to the premises of the second respondent by the Ghana Peace Council, at which meeting we met representatives of the petitioners, and the third petitioner was present. And there was an attempt by the third petitioner to urge the second respondent to postpone the declaration of the results of the elections. We went through several discussions. Of course, my party did not participate because we had indicated that we didn't consider the meeting appropriate. So we stood there as observers, but we did not actually participate in the discussions. But at the end of these discussions, the second respondent indicated that they will proceed to to declare the results of the elections, immediately they are in possession of all the results from the various polling stations. And indeed, that evening, the declaration took place.
Now, you're aware of the various allegations that the petitioners have brought before this court in their petition. And I'll take you through them one by one so that you can respond.
Yes, my Lord.
You are aware that allegations have been made of overvoting in this petition, are you not?
Yes, my Lord.
Now, what is your response to those allegations as made by the petitioners?
Thank you, my Lord. My Lord, I can state that there was nowhere in all the 26,000 polling stations where overvoting took place. My Lord, I'm saying this because we have come to know overvoting to mean an occurrence where the number of votes found in the ballot box exceed the number of people who are entitled to vote at that polling station. So that clearly is my understanding of overvoting, and I do not have any indication of this happening in any of the 26,002 polling stations which were involved in the 2012 elections.
Now, you heard the second petitioner also indicate that overvoting is where the ballots that are tallied at the end of voting for each candidate, where those exceed exceed the number of ballots issued in a polling station.
I've heard about it, my Lord, but that was my first time of hearing overvoting being defined that way in all my 34 years of experience in elections in this country.
Now, in respect of the overvoting allegation, you also heard the second petitioner testify in relation to pink sheets where no number had been entered in the column about ballots issued at a particular station, where no number was present, it was blank. What do you have to say to that also?
Yes, my Lord, this must be as a result of some clerical error, because ballot papers are issued, and then voting takes place, and then voting, the ballot is open, the box is open at the close of voting, counting takes place, the tallies are, sorting takes place, the tallies are made, and agents of the parties attest to the results that are obtained. They certify the results that are obtained. And my Lord, I think that if no papers were issued, then the election couldn't have taken place at all. So I think that that must be a clerical error. And at all material times, there are processes where people who are dissatisfied or parties who are dissatisfied with the outcomes can lodge a complaint, a specific complaint about what they are dissatisfied with on the spot, and then action is taken subsequently on those complaints. And I'm not aware of any polling station where such complaints have been lodged, besides what were tendered in evidence, about 5 or so polling stations that were tendered in evidence by the petitioners.
Now, you're also aware that there are allegations concerning voting without biometric verification.
Yes, my lord.
What do you have to say to those allegations?
My lord, I haven't seen any evidence of voters having voted without prior biometric verification anywhere, because there is no single complaint anywhere in all the pink sheets that we have, perused and analyzed that anybody voted without prior biometric verification. And if I must add, my lord, before we went into the elections, all the political parties agreed with the second respondent that every voter should be verified before they cast their vote. And we did not stop there. We proceeded to anticipate what happens if there is a machine failure. And there was a unanimous decision that when a machine malfunctions or fails, those polling stations ought to be supplied with backup machines. In the unlikely event that those backup machines also fail, the election must be postponed. And my lord, by the afternoon of the first day of voting, there were several complaints about machines malfunctioning in several places throughout the country. So by the end of the first day, there was an announcement by the second respondent that a review of the situation they have come to a conclusion that in about 400 polling stations, there was this machine problem. And so they declared that elections in those polling stations will be continued on the 8th, and that new machines will be supplied for use. And as far as I'm concerned, a count was taken of all those places where there was that problem. And it was based on the count that the election was continued in those affected polling stations on the second day. And we didn't hear about any machine malfunction on the second day again till the elections were collated and declared. So, and I haven't seen any single complaint at any polling station in any prescribed form about anywhere that anybody has voted without prior biometric verification. And my lord, nobody has come to contest the specific, has made any specific allegation about any individual voting at any of the polling stations without prior biometric verification.
Now, the second petitioner has also referred to a statement that was made on the 7th of December by the first respondent, on behalf of whom you're also testifying. Do you recall that testimony?
My Lord, I have seen a copy of the statement in their affidavit.
Mm-hmm. What do you have to say to the allegations they make in respect of that statement by the first respondent?
My Lord, what was curious to me was the part of the statement that alleges that when there is even a single vote which is determined to have been cast without prior biometric verification, all the votes in that polling station.
No, Mr. Asiedu Nketia, I'm referring to they refer to a statement by the first respondent, that is the president. They refer to
Yes, my Lord. Yes, my Lord. I've seen that, a copy of that
Yeah.
statement.
Yes, that is what I'm referring
I'm sorry.
to.
I've seen a copy of that statement, and it is alleging that the president was calling on the Electoral Commission to allow voters in areas where the machine is not functioning to vote without the thumb printing. I've seen that statement.
Now, you're aware that the second petitioner testified in respect of that statement and its effect on the voting process, are you not?
Yes, I'm aware of that testimony, but I disagree with the petitioners when they are testifying that that statement amounted to a command or a declaration by the first respondent that people should go and vote without prior biometric verification. My Lord, if you read the full text of the statement and the publication, it talks about a problem that has arisen in the country in the course of the elections, i.e. the malfunctioning of the equipment in several places. And it makes account of prominent people in society all contributing towards finding solutions to the problem. I saw in that exhibit a statement made by the president of the Upper East Regional House of Chiefs, another prominent chief in the Northern region, all urging the second respondent to allow people in places where the machines are not functioning to vote without the thumbprint. And then it was followed by a statement by His Excellency the President, also calling on the second respondent to allow people to vote without where the machine is not functioning, to allow people to vote. My Lord, I consider that one as a legitimate appeal to the second respondent, but the second respondent quickly, in that statement, the second respondent declined that offer and proceeded to take actions according to decisions that have been arrived at IPAC. So I don't see how that statement comes into this thing as evidence at all. Order. And my Lord, I also am aware of another response by the petitioners that the president's statement should be ignored. Electoral Commission should proceed to work according to the agreements that were reached at IPAC. And indeed, at the end of the day, Electoral Commission proceeded to continue the elections according to whatever was agreed at IPAC. So I do not see this as any thing of evidential value at all.
Case out of serial numbers on the pink sheets.
Yes, my Lord.
In one polling station being the same as serial numbers on pink sheets in other polling stations. You're aware of that claim?
Yes, my Lord.
Now, what is your response to that claim?
My Lord, my response is that polling stations have settled, the second respondent plus all political parties have agreed on ways to identify polling stations. And that identification does not include anything like serial numbers at all. And so I don't consider that those serial numbers, whether they are duplicated or multiplicated or triplicated anywhere, it doesn't impact on the results of the election in any way at all. My Lord, the two means of identifying a polling station has been the name of the polling station, which is almost always related to the location. And then you have code numbers. These code numbers are crafted in a way that anybody who is familiar with the electoral process of Ghana, when you give a code number, you are able to tell that this code number describes a polling station in this particular region, it describes a polling station in this particular district, in this particular constituency, and if you refer further, you will be able to identify the location. If I may add, my Lord, you have about 11 letters of the alphabet. These, excluding I, have been used in identifying the regions. Beginning from Western region is A, Central region is B, then you come to Greater Accra, C, then Volta region is D, then Eastern region E, Ashanti region F, Brong Ahafu G, and so on and so forth. So immediately you see a number of a polling station, a code number of a polling station, beginning with G, you know that that polling station is located in Brong Ahafu. Then the next two letters also indicate the district. The next two figures indicate the district. The next figures indicate the constituency, and so on, down to the polling station. So if you are very well versed with the polling station codes, at any material point in time, if you combine it with the name of the location, you should be able to identify the polling station that is in reference. And it does not, we don't use anything like serial numbers at all. And my Lord, let me add something about